Hello, everyone. This is a little bit of a change of pace for us. As you could see, we are not using computers. We are actually live, and we're doing our first in-person stream. This is the third episode of the PYRAcast podcast, featuring Mr. Kian Lynch, our host, Ethan Jones, the Bones, Super Mushroom, and our special guest for the day, Mr. Nate Pyra.
Yeah.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us, Nate. I will say, as you've probably all already seen, it took us a little bit to set up, and we failed the first broadcast, so I had to copy and paste everything. On top of that, I gotta say, the way that we have angled this, it looks like we have to, make a response from being canceled.
Right. I've made a severe and deep lapse in my judgment, and
The accusations against us are not true. I did not steal Peter's JW Purples from 2011. I will not hear it. But yeah, this is an exciting live version of the PYRAcast. I initially wanted to do this yesterday or Friday, but Evan did not get here on Friday. He got here at midnight. So
Evan.
Nate.
hey Evan, hope St. Louis is going well for you.
No, because we were just talking about Evan.
Actually,
Nate didn't get here until midnight, excuse me.
Yeah, although it's funny Kian should mention that, because actually we had initially planned to invite Evan and Noah Thornton, to join us this weekend. If you don't know, I invited Kian and Nate over to my place. We spent most of the weekend at Hershey Park, and
Which is where we were yesterday, why we couldn't do it yesterday.
Just hanging out, and we decided that we wanted to do a live episode. Figured it'd be a nice change of pace for this series.
And I didn't realize, for very obvious reasons, I didn't realize that there was a tournament today that a lot of people were going to, apparently. So
Right.
Good luck to everyone at St. Louis.
Yes.
good luck to everybody, and to everybody not going to St. Louis. St. Louis. Welcome to the PYRAcast. That's why you're here, probably.
Let's go.
So we have a lot to talk about. Of course, we had a detailed preparation and schedule and a full list of topics that we were going to talk about. Just kidding, we have two. One that I do remember that we will talk about is... oh, by the way, do you want to post this in a group?
Post.
Yeah, the stream. In the Facebook group.
Oh, yeah.
Whilst he's doing that, the one thing that we will talk about is the Pyra Power Rankings. Now, I don't think... It's been a couple of months since our last PYRAcast episode. So I don't think anything has majorly changed. What happened since, mid-August?
Not much. Connecticut happened.
Connecticut happened. I don't think anything that was groundbreaking or likely would have changed most people's rankings. So whatever my ranking was last time, it's probably accurate.
They posted the world's rankings. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh yeah,
They
posted the
I thought they did that
posted
months
the results
ago.
from finals.
I thought they did that months ago. How does it? That's something we'll talk about later. We'll have our own rant about that later. But I'm gonna let Ethan go. Actually, let's let our guest host go first. What is your top 5 list?
Should I go 5-1 or?
5-1. Let's make it suspenseful.
So number 5, I have Evan Cloud, just because he's so consistent, and it's sure, he's not he may not be the fastest, and he has his off days, but Evan, you can always just count on Evan to just be there. At the juniors head-to-head events, he was so consistent. I think he got second in his division, maybe behind one other person who's later on in the list.
Yeah, and I know that you have Evan. Spoiler alert: he has Evan in his list as well. I do likely have Evan in my list. I didn't formulate a list because I'm literally using my phone to broadcast this, so I can't make one here. But these guys are. But let us know in the chat below, what your top 5 would be. But no, Evan's definitely in my top 5 somewhere for sure, because I think that when Evan, he has his off days, but when he's on, when he's activated, he's very hard to beat.
And his off days are few and far between.
Right. Ethan.
Yes.
You're
Oh, it's my turn. Okay.
Yeah.
So my 5th on this list is Mr. Tyler Fano. I've kind of gone back and forth between him and Mr. Nyauki Sakine. I ultimately decided to go with Tyler based on potential. So far, he has only competed in one Pyra event, Double Down. He had a good showing there, good steady showing. kind of ran into a brick wall, as with Chen Kang-yin. But as we have seen, particularly in Cycle, just, he hasn't had too much familiarity with this head-to-head format, as most stackers haven't.
Yeah.
But I do think if he kind of, continues to compete in the Pyra format, he could certainly make some noise, more noise than, he already has, which is a considerable amount.
I want to add on top of that as well, like Tyler, in his one head-to-head debut, his first ever head-to-head debut, he beat Tyler Hollis, beat Evan Cloud, it was one of only 2 stackers in the entire tournament to take a single round off of Chen Kang-yin, the other being
Tyler Hollis. Which was in a 10 base, like a 10 sample size.
It's like inevitably you gotta get around somewhere, I hope. But like Tyler impressed so much, and I would have been to argue, like, if he was on the other side of that bracket, I bet he goes much further in the tournament. But as for that, number 4, we already talked about your number 4, Evan Cloud.
Mr. Evan Cloud.
And my number 4, we already talked about, was Tyler Fano.
So these two are like just swapped around.
We're on the same wavelength here.
The reason why I have Fano at 4 is just because his potential is just through the roof.
Oh yeah.
Like at juniors, even though it's a different format, it was basically after Orel, which we'll talk about later. It was basically a race for third because Tyler Fano was just so good at juniors.
Mm-hmm.
Even with all that, what's the word called?
Consistency.
All that, like, pressure. That's the word I'm looking for. Because so many people were putting a lot of pressure on Tyler Fano to do good.
Mm-hmm.
Even with all that pressure, he still did amazing at that tournament.
Yeah. I think that Tyler probably has the highest ceiling right now.
Yeah.
It's the it's always been the question of sure you have a high ceiling, but what's your floor? Like, how is he going to react when he does inevitably not perform to standard at a tournament? Like, how is he going to rebound? How is he going to be able to move from on from that? But yeah, as for myself, I actually would have had Tyler as, like, I've begun to formulate my list as well, and I'll kind of go through it. Like, right now, Evan would be 5th, and we'll talk about my number 4 in just a second because both of you are about to talk about it. But Tyler Fano would actually be my 3rd because I feel like his potential is just that high to the extent where I don't think many people are actually going to be able to compete with him once he starts to hit prime form, which is the terrifying thing. He's what, 16? 15, 16?
Possibly younger than that, yeah.
Yeah.
14, 15.
14, 15 years old. And he is, like, hitting this form now. What happens when he starts popping 4.5s? It's going to be an absolute nightmare for everybody else.
Yeah.
Let's move on to our number 3 picks. I actually want to start with you on this one, Ethan, because your number 3 actually surprises me a little.
Yes, it is Mr. William Morel. He is the same spot where he was last time. William has competed in 2 Pyra events. He competed at All-Stars, the first ever Pyra competition, and he competed at Double Down. Now, I think you could probably make the argument that William could be moved up to 2nd based on the fact that the person I have above him has only competed in 1 tournament, and he has competed in 2. I think what really influenced my decision was the previous tournament, which is when he came face-to-face with Tyler Hollis, who I had been harsh on for, never competing in the head-to-head format, and I didn't know how well he would adjust to that, and Tyler ended up outplacing William, and ended up getting 2nd, finishing behind Chen Kang-yin. William Morel obviously his accomplishments sort of speak for himself at this point, widely considered one of the greats of this sport. I think just for the time being, based on what I saw at Double Down, in that head-to-head format, I just feel like Tyler has a little bit more potential. That being said, I could see this flip-flopping, of course. I think, William Morel obviously has his days, but...
Don't we all?
Yeah, don't we all,
Speaking of flip-flopping, speaking of which, wait, who's your number 3?
My number 3 is Tyler Hollis.
Oh, wow! I wonder who your number 2 is. So yeah, these guys literally had their number 5 and number 4s flipped, and then their number 3s and number 2s flipped.
Our number 1 is the same.
Yeah, number 1 is the same.
It's the same across the board. Let's say it together. Gianni Barletta.
Yeah. Kian, are you kidding me? It's clearly me.
Oh,
come on.
right.
Yeah. No, it's Chen again.
Yeah. Okay. So, but I will ask Tyler Hollis below Orel. Well, what's the reasoning behind that, other than probably just the obvious? Orel is still, by most people's perception, the GOAT.
Yeah. Even though, Double Down, right?
Yeah.
Even though at Double Down, Tyler Hollis did, win against him. I just think Orel is he's so, like, proved himself.
Yeah.
Throughout many, many years, since, like, 2013, 2014. Having that for a stretch of 7 to 8 years is just, it's hard to knock someone down over one performance, even though William was still really good at Double Down.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's kind of where it's hard for me, because I have Orel as my second as well. And that's where, like, my list goes off a little bit from yours, because I have Tyler at 4, not because I think Tyler Hollis is bad by any means. Well, I actually have Tyler at 3 and then Tyler at 4, because we have Tyler Fano and Tyler Hollis. Thanks, guys. I make this really confusing. It's just like William and William, but
right.
My thing was that, like, I feel like the ceiling is much higher for Tyler Fano, but I also think the floor is much higher for Tyler Hollis. But I say that as a compliment, in the sense of Tyler Hollis is basically always going to get the job done. And that's how I very much perceive him as. It's like, he'll understand his opponent, and he just matches with him so well. And it's the same thing that Orel does. I think that right now, it's a question of, can Tyler do it better? And how is this probably going to, go on about, like, things like, when we get to in-person tournaments, where does the paradigm shift? And then, with that in mind, all of our number 1s, surprise, surprise, the exact same, Chen Kang-yin. I don't think any of us need to make an additional comment here. I feel like it's pretty open and shut case.
The only thing that I think might not be an open and shut case, but I think Ian is making a very, very strong argument for, is as the greatest stacker of all time.
I saw, yeah, because you actually made a list of, like, specific stackers and, like, which roles and who were, like, the greatest of all times. And you say now that your overall greatest of all time is Ian.
Yeah. And this is something that, I think really does come down to Ian and Orel. But, I mean, the kind of stretch that Chen Kang-Ian has had since, I want to say, 2016 onward. I mean, obviously, in 2014, 2015, Ian was very, very good. He finished second at Worlds 2014, for example. But starting with Worlds 2016 onward, I just think Chen Kang-Ian has just been on an absolute tear. And I think we've seen probably the most incredible stretch of results that we've seen in the history of this sport. He's the first 4-time world champion. I know some people might discount his Worlds 2020 performance because it was online. If anything, I'd argue that was more difficult.
Yeah.
Because that was many more competitors in that competition.
Because everybody was running it online.
Right. At both Double Down and All Stars, he had just an unbelievable showing. Completely dominated the competition. I really don't even think anyone was close to beating him.
No, nobody was.
No.
I mean, the quote-unquote closest you got was Tyler in the finals.
Right.
And he only took 3 rounds off of Ian. I will say, though, watching that finals between Tyler and Ian, it was a lot closer than a 10-3 scoreline. Like, if you watched that, there were, like, 4 or 5 different rounds where if it was just, like, if Tyler was able to just finish a fraction of a second faster, he takes that round. It's a completely different grand finals. Yeah. But again, that's where Ian was actually able to get the one up on Tyler and close things out. And again, now is the question of when we do get to in-person Pyra tournaments, and yes, those are on the way. I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But once we get there, and once we see Ian in these competitions against these other, top 5 stackers, in the U.S. and the world, whatever, is it the same level of dominance that he has been showing online? Is there a difference? Is there a paradigm shift? Do the nerves kick in a little more when you see that other person and there is a crowd watching? I think those are all factors that could definitely be put into play. When it comes to that, do you see like any of your top 5 stackers? Do you see any of them in terms of like online performances versus in-person tournaments for either of you guys? Do you see either of them either performing like just 10 times better, or actually like just saying their performances are online based, so it's not as permanent? Like anything online, in person, do you hold any account there? Do you think anybody's gonna get way better or way worse?
I think Fano might get way better in person.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, between 2020 and 2021, I took a pretty like substantial break from stacking and like stepped back from the community for a little bit. And then when I came back and saw that Tyler Fano had the national record for a time for the cycle, to be fair, it is a different format, but having that in an in-person tournament is still insane. And I believe that Tyler Fano also, and at juniors, again, really well performance. So when it comes to the Pyra format, I believe that once Tyler Fano can get like used to it a little bit, because I mean, it's still a new format and a lot of people have to get used to it. I have to get used to it as well.
Yeah, you have not competed.
Yeah.
Asshole. No.
Yeah. I haven't had the opportunity to compete in a Pyra
Boys got
tournament. College and then high school. It's been a mess.
Yeah.
But once people start getting used to it, especially Tyler Fano, I believe that he will get so much better.
Yeah, and again, that's where maybe that bout, because remember what Chen Kang-yin said when I asked him, who are you most afraid of competition wise? He did not say William Morel. He said Tyler. He said Tyler Fano, and that speaks volumes. Because I think that when it does come to in-person tournaments and Tyler Fano does warm up to the system a little bit, hey, I mean, who knows? Maybe he goes to the next tournament and just absolutely dominates. But I think once we do see Ian versus Tyler like in person, I think Tyler is. I wouldn't even call him a dark horse yet. I think Tyler Fano would be a favorite to like actually be the one to take down Chen Kang Ian in person. Speaking of which, somebody did clarify in chat. Thank you for that. Tyler Fano is 16. I did think it was a little bit younger, but it doesn't matter. But with our, rankings aside, let's shift the focus a little bit more to our actual guest host here, Mr. Nate Hera. Am I saying that right, Hera?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because
Herrera.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's how I said it.
People can never get my last name.
People can never get my first name if it makes you feel any better.
At juniors 2014, they were always Nate Hara, and I didn't have the guts to tell Kit Fox.
Hey guys, it's actually Hera. But let's focus a little bit more on you. Like, how did you get into stacking?
Sure. I, of course, like many people, in kindergarten, my PE teacher on like a snow day or a rainy day would bring out the set of cups, and he would turn on the DVD, but none of us would pay attention. We would just go like, look at this cool tower, and then my family bought me a set, and it was a set of SO oranges, I think from Target. Of course, didn't touch them at all. I probably played with them for like a day and then just did whatever with them. And then much later in fourth grade, I recently found the cups again, and during that time when I was younger, I did watch a lot of like stacking videos from Rachel Nedrow and Lawrence Masterin all the way back in like 2008, 2009. And then when I came back, I found the cups again, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember those videos. So I started watching them again, and then that's how I actually learned how to stack, was following their movements. Even though I'm left-handed, if you look at a right-handed person stacking from not their point of view, but the opposite point of view,
Right.
it looks like they're stacking left-handed.
Right.
So that's how I learned. I just copied their hand movements.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, didn't watch the DVD, didn't do anything like that. But after a while, I had like six of those SO oranges left. So then I ordered a set of fake black flames off of eBay or something. And then that's when I actually started to stack and, learn the motions and stuff like that. And then a couple months later, in December or January, a water crisis happened near where I live. So 4th grade Nate had a whole month off of school. And
You know what happened next.
dude, I feel so bad for my parents. There was like
What's up,
8
Spencer?
hours a day. It was insane. And then as soon as the water crisis got fixed, during that time I was looking up different tournaments. And I found Ohio Valley in Wheeling, and I like begged my parents to go. And so for a birthday present, they were like, "Oh, we're gonna go. You're gonna stack." Originally, they thought it was gonna be like 8 people there just to have fun.
Right.
But then when they got there, that tournament, William Morrell, I think Josh was there.
Nick Stam was
Nick
there.
Stam.
There were a few other people like Robert
Robert.
Wetherington, Cameron Bobos. I think Dominic Bertucci was there.
I think so.
Yeah. I was there. I was actually
Yeah.
the first tournament I met Nate.
Yeah. So I just went to my first tournament just a couple months after I started stacking. And after that, it just like my interest in it just exploded. Because I'm a pretty like, what's the word? Like, I have like an addictive personality. If I found something fun, I will research the crap out of it. I would go like, basically to the point of annoying people talking about it so much. But after that first tournament, it was just boom, 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 boom. Just so much more interest in stacking.
There you go. And then was there like, it's another thing I usually ask, is there like a moment for you where you like realized like, oh my god, I'm like I'm among the best at this. Like I'm that type of good.
The first time I realized I was kind of fast was when I got my first 5.3 at home, and people were like, dude, you just like, I didn't know who you were until you got this time.
That was the 5:31.7, right?
Yeah.
That was a sick.
First 5.3 is a 5.31. Wow.
Yeah.
Getting straight to the point.
Yep.
But once I got that time and people were like, dude, you're pretty fast. That was really good. That was when I started to realize, I was like, huh, maybe I could like, become one of the best.
Yeah. There you go. And now you've been kind of all over the place these like last couple of years, obviously because of like school and things like that, but I mean, I would say that in terms of like the lefty stackers, there's so few of us. It's like you, me, Peter, Andrew.
I'm drawing a blank
I'm
here.
drawing a
Yeah, I think that's it.
I mean-
I was gonna say Billy, but I'm pretty sure he's righty.
I could think of like retired stackers who were
Yeah.
like Steven.
Yeah, like you got Steven, you got some like old legends in there, but man, like I feel like that was another moment where, because I was like, okay, I just gotta be Peter, and then I'm like the best lefty, and then like Andrew Dale showed up, I'm like, ah, damn it. But that's also like, it's wild that I wouldn't say like, it's wild that it took that long to get to the 5.3 for like people to start like getting recognition, because I guess for me, I mean, I think earlier on I got recognition for like all the wrong reasons, but I think
Ditto
for
me.
yeah, like early on, like when people were like, okay, you know, this kid has some potential. It's like I broke a state record, and people were like, oh yeah, it's pretty good. So like when people are like, oh yeah, he got a 5:31, it's like, oh damn, it's a little bit of a paradigm shift there.
Of course, Nate, I had been, you and I were good friends for a while. I remember it was probably the beginning of 2017, and then working your way into 2018 is when you went from like really, really good to like probably top 10 in the world, especially after the 183.
I was about to say,
competition.
that
yeah, I think that was kind of insane.
Yeah.
To be
That's
honest.
Yeah, I was
that's
like,
where I was
oh.
like, oh my god, like this guy's the real deal.
I think at that time it was like third in the U.S. for 363 tournament.
And I remember too, because like that was the 363 is and has always been the one thing I've been like super good at.
Yeah.
So I remember I think I got 193 or something, and I was like close to getting the top 10. And I was like, if I just get a 1.8, I'll be top 10. And then you got that, and I was like, fuck.
He was like, oh, come on.
But yeah, that tournament, Connorsville 2017, that was like one of my first like really, really good performances at tournaments.
Mm.
I got like all new bests. I got my first 5 in tournament, which is kind of funny. Getting a 183 and then my first 5 in tournament.
Yeah. Nice ordering there. But yeah, so that's from your end. That's your story. I mean, we've both kind of covered our stories a little bit over the podcast. And unfortunately, that's about as much as we had prepared.
Yeah.
Now, to keep in mind, I'll let you go in just a second. To keep in mind, one, we can't have Nate forever here, so we do have to do a little bit of a shorter episode this time around.
Yep.
But as well, we've been at Hershey Park. We were at Hershey Park all day yesterday, and we were preparing for that all day yesterday. And on top of that, again, Nate didn't even get here until midnight of the day of us going to Hershey Park. Yeah, that's not your fault. I mean, shit happens.
Yeah.
But sorry, you were about to say something?
It's also just a long drive.
Yeah, it's about a 7-hour drive. And
Yeah.
I had college classes to be at. But I was gonna say, I met Ethan at Ohio Valley, but I don't think we really talked until juniors of that year.
It may have been, we talked a little bit at juniors 2014. I think Nation's Capital is when you and I became like really good friends. Yeah. And at that tournament, that was probably my first decent tournament. But I just remember Nate was telling me, like, I'm like, oh yeah, like he was telling me all his like goals for stacking and like the future. And I was like, oh yeah, just keep working at it. And like, I think you have come like such a long way since that point. Because I can remember back like when we were competing to break our like divisional state records and our overall state records. And then it was like you competing for national records, and I just like fell so far behind you because we were about the same speed at one point, and then Nate kind of got ahead probably around like 2015, and it's been kind of a runaway ever since.
Yeah, 2015.
I don't even remember when I met you.
I remember seeing you at juniors 2014, but we didn't really talk.
Oh my god!
Because I always knew you as
bro.
the kid. I knew you as the kid with red hair, like all over the place.
Yes.
Yeah, with red hair all over the place. That didn't shower. That didn't do anything like of even decent responsibility at the time. I remember always trying to bother everybody, so there's a good chance we didn't interact there, but not to any extent I will be able to remember.
I think I remember seeing you like attempting to do something on the floor, but it kind of just looked like you were flopping around.
Probably. Yeah, I was probably right. I think the first like prevalent tournament where like we actually like conversed a little bit was June.
Philly?
Yeah,
Philly 2016.
Philly 2016. I was gonna say juniors of not that year, but the following. But God, I can barely remember the Phillies.
That was 6 years
all of the
ago.
Phillies except for 2014 are just a blur to me.
For me, like Philly was always that one tournament where like I didn't prepare for it at all. It just sort of showed up, and then I'm like, oh yeah, Philly's today, and then I would go to Philly and stuff would happen, and then
Oh, yo, we got Tyler and Joe. What's up, Tyler?
Yep. Tyler said he wanted to join us for an episode this summer.
This summer?
Yep.
I think you can join us for a tournament this
You can
summer
join us
because
for a
that's our
tournament.
next announcement. No.
Yeah.
I guess we will go quickly to another segment of just kind of updating things about Pyra. So for starters, no, this is not an official Pyra jersey. I know. This is actually a prototype that we were testing out. But we didn't actually get to like the second part of the design that we wanted to do. So it's literally just a blank jersey with like 2 logos on it. I mean, if we wanted this to be like the beginner jersey for like $10, we could pull that off.
It's the version of the state team jersey.
Yeah, basically.
The Pyra version of state teams.
Because I mean, it's pretty comfy. It's just literally bare bones.
This is comfy too.
Yeah, I'm sure. I hope so. On top of that, something else I wanted to talk about. There was like a really there was a good period where I was like looking at Pyra like all together, and I was like, oh my god, do I even want to do I want to do this? Because not because it was a question of did I want to do it or not, because of course I want to do it. It's just like
The investment part.
the investment part, both just time wise and then financially, of course. Financials have gotten a little bit clearer just with what we want to do for the next couple of tournaments. It's just a matter of, again, execution. But like the next tournament that we're planning is obviously it's going to be a bigger tournament. It's just a matter of the technical aspect of things. I want to remove as many like roles as possible, because I don't want there to be too many technical interferences that just don't need to happen. On top of that, it's also been trying to figure out a format, because my initial plan, and this is still a plan I'll likely have at some point for a tournament, is that it was going to be invitation only and you had to qualify for the tournament. So like the top 8 stackers in the rankings would auto qualify, and then afterwards there would be like online qualifiers or an online qualifier for the next 8 stackers, and then it would be like a 16 stacker based tournament. The problem is, if we did something like that, we're basically just guaranteed to lose money, because like registration fees, things like that. Like we're just guaranteed to lose money at that point. Again, it's not all about money, obviously, but it's the matter of like we wouldn't even go even. Like we would be like draining money, especially if we don't get a venue supplied to us and we have to pay a couple extra thousand to get that supplied. So I think we're either just going to hold on that idea until we have a little bit more structure towards something like a qualification only tournament. And it's something I definitely want to do. So for the time being, I think the structure for the next tournament I'm thinking of is it being a 2-day tournament, with the first day being open qualifiers, anybody's welcome. But the top 8 stackers currently in the PPR would get auto invited to day 2. As in, you don't even have to stack day 1 if you don't want to. You can do like the first event or first 2 events, but only if you want to, and in a way that wouldn't affect other people who actually need to qualify for the second day of their results. So there's a couple different ways we're thinking about the format. It's just going to be a matter of approach and a matter of the resources, because that's the other thing I've kind of learned that's difficult with this sport is, as much as I love the stackers, not many of you are, audio engineers or cameramen or, like that area as well. We have to be able to find roles for that, and to find people for that is much easier said than done, I guess, in a way. But it's definitely something I'm excited about, and I do want to make it clear, we are definitely working on an in-person Pyra tournament. That is our next goal.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. I can't. If I had more prepared to tell you all, I would have told you by this point. That's about as much as I have ready to say. Other than that's the first part of it, and it's going to be expensive.
I have something prepared to say that's kind of unrelated to this.
Oh God, what is it?
But kind of related to Nate's hoodie and this adorable Super Mushroom plushie. I also wanted to add on that we also played Mario Party last night, and I slayed because I am a beast, and I also feel terrible for Nate because he got screwed over 5 times.
I got last.
Bro, it's my first time playing Mario Party 2, and I got second, but I would have won the game. There was literally an AI that was about to win the game too, and I almost let him win the game.
If you were wondering, we were playing Mario Party 4 for the Nintendo GameCube. This price tag up here of $19.99 is funny. When I got that in 2010, it was that price. Now it's probably $70, $80. So
that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of the meat and the potatoes of the podcast.
Potatoes.
Hi,
Mike.
Of the PYRAcast. What?
Mike, because he's a potato.
Oh God. Wah, wah. I guess it's just kind of a matter of catching up on some subjects. Gen 5 is still a thing.
It is still a thing.
It's still a thing. But I've been looking into more of Gen 5, and I know, Ethan, you were really trying to get into Gen 5 not into it,
right.
but you were trying to figure it out. You were saying
I wanted to figure it out because I figured that maybe there was some sort of rhythm or style combination that you could make Gen 5 work.
Mm-hmm.
I tried Joel Meyer's rhythm, for example, and if you guys know anything about Joel Meyer's style and rhythm, he usually starts with a very flat start with a lot of pressure and kind of keeps his hands close together, sort of like what Gen 5 asks you to do, which is, start with your thumbs, sort of place it towards the back of the timer. And for starting the timer, that actually worked pretty well. I I have not found any like efficient solution for stopping the Gen 5 timer. It's a nightmare, especially for 333 and 363. Like with cycle, you can kind of bring your hands back when you're completing the 110 down stack, but it just it's ergonomically speaking, I just don't feel like it was designed with speed in mind. It was really designed specifically to, prevent scratches, which I get that that was kind of the purpose, but they also said that they expected times to be a little slower at first. They are a lot slower, and they are still a lot slower about a year and a half after it was announced. And that's the problem that I had with the timer.
I also don't feel like when they said that they were talking to, again, the kind of 1% stackers that
Right.
we are. They were probably talking to the broad, stackers who have like 13-second cycles. It's like, yeah, it's not going to change. Yeah, if you got a 13-second cycle, yeah, it probably won't change much.
Right.
Probably will not change much. For the sport where every millisecond literally matters, it's kind of important.
Yeah.
For me with Gen 5, it's a bit of a little different opinion. At first, yeah, it was very hard to get adjusted to, but after juniors this year, I spent a month afterwards just stacking with Gen 5 and just trying so many different rhythms and strategies and stuff like that just to like try and figure out what worked and what didn't. Um, the only so after about a month, I got pretty used to it and I could get like pretty fast times pretty consistently. The rhythm I use is Shankinian, the
Of course.
fixture to most problems.
Yeah.
So after a while, I like what worked for me is I still use the opposite-handed first three. I know a lot of people switch to normal first three, but I just couldn't get used to that. So I just like moved it very close and had like a specific hand placement. And for stopping, what worked for me is really like bringing my wrist close together, as close as possible, while still having the cupped hand, I guess, to have the thumb pad and main pad stopped.
Yeah.
So having the three stacked really close, like in between the middle of my hands while starting, and bringing my wrist really close together while stopping. That's what worked well for me while
Okay there?
stacking. Yeah, I just need like something to drink.
I gotcha. Well, he's gonna go grab something to drink. We're gonna tell you about our sponsor. No, I'm kidding.
We don't have any sponsors.
We don't have any sponsors.
Except Super Mushroom.
I had a sponsor for a little bit, and that's gone now. But that was, mutual agreement. Don't worry. That ended well. My thought with Gen 5 is like still more of the execution than it is the timer itself. I don't really care for the timer. I'm never going to use the timer. I don't have to worry about it. I'm in a pretty sweet spot there when it comes to the timer. Again, and it's not even that, like, I hate the timer, because, like, there were a couple different stackers that actually used the timer at double down. Orel was kind of the key example. So, like, if stackers want to use the timer, that's not necessarily what I have the problem with. It's, again, the option. It's the same thing with the cups, is that the option of using a timer that doesn't require thumb pads is, for anybody that stacks in WSA tournaments, no longer an option. I guess as well, I mean, it also feels like a lot of the things that Gen 5 as a timer was intending to fix, like the problems it was supposed to resolve, either haven't resolved it or have somehow made it worse, unfortunately. Like the way of, not stopping with your wrists, where now there's a way where you can actually stop the timer with your wrists.
And it's also a difference of philosophy, I feel, because, we've always been taught by the WSSA and by speed stacks that stopping with your wrist is bad, and that holding the cups while you're stopping the timer is bad. But they've never really offered an explanation as to why that's bad and whether or not that even poses a significant advantage, which really it doesn't appear like it does. If anything, I did. So I used to stop with my wrist, and Nate, I'm sure probably remember when I used to sort of stop right here.
I remember when you upstacked the 3 with one hand.
Yeah, I remember when I upstacked the three and downstacked the first three with one hand.
And there were stackers like in the early, like the late 1990s or early 2000s. Like that's how they started.
Yeah, like Malcolm Richardson, Matt Adame.
Yeah.
But I stopped doing that. But really, the concern wasn't even whether the times were clean. I stopped doing that simply because it led to significant injuries, and it was really hurting. And granted, you could make the argument for Gen 5 that, oh, well, yeah, then the Gen 5 timer helps prevent injuries from starting and stopping with the wrist. But on the other hand, I've also heard a lot of complaints about Gen 5 causing injuries or causing pain because of where the thumb pads are placed and that it can actually hurt the joints in the finger. And so, I think it would really help if we had like a community census. Like, okay, if it weren't, just ignore the WSSA and ignore speed stacks. Just act like they don't exist for a second. Do you care about wrist stops and holding the cups when you stop the timer? Do you feel as though it poses a significant advantage or disadvantage? And I simply do not feel like it does.
I think it depends. I think the only thing that would really be a dependent there is how, if you are going to hold the cups when you stop, how. Yeah. And again, it's actually more of just like a thing of injuring yourself. Like that, I kind of get that. Like if they were doing it to stop you from hurting yourself, okay, I get that. But at the same time, you'll probably stop doing that yourself.
Right, and because it hurts.
Because it hurts. And most people in the sport were self-taught. Most people learn how to stack. And so that's kind of what also bothers me is a lot of these kids learn to stack their way, and they've been consistently told throughout that their way of doing it was the wrong way. Whereas ever since the beginning, even back to the 1980s with, the Boys Girls Club of Oceanside, California, the entire point was to just do it how you wanted to. You could build your own pyramids. It was supposed to be, I guess, a little bit more expanded from, I guess, the format that we have now. But more so, it was supposed to be more flexible than what we have. It feels like when I watch a lot of these stackers that are going at these WSSA tournaments, it feels like they're in this box of all, almost definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting different results. And that's kind of another problem that lies into it with the WSA is that they've understood that the sport is getting too fast. They have to have observed that by now. And I think that was probably also another clause of Gen 5 is that, okay, well, this is going to make people a little bit slower. It's not going to stop them from being fast, like the William Morrell is still William Morrell. But at the very least, we get to reset, we get to make new world records, and we get to talk about those for a little bit. And again, I almost feel like it's just trying to push and delay the inevitable. Whereas it's going to get so fast to the point where I won't say times are unbeatable, but they're going to be so hard to beat that there's nothing to talk about. There will be full-on half years or years where nothing new happens. Kind of like 2018? No, sorry, 2017.
And the philosophy of Pyra is a lot different, where it's not just about the fastest times, it's about, it's about actually going head-to-head, and it's about encouraging that actual head-to-head competition. And it's not all about speed, it also factors in consistency, it factors in composure, it factors in all of these other attributes of stacking. It's not just as transparent as, whoever has the fastest cycle time wins.
Yeah. And
to add on to your thing, what I liked this year about juniors is on the very first day 0, I should say, they had instead of just doing the same events all the time, on day 0 they had 4 to 5 just miscellaneous events that they did where you went you didn't go head to head, but you were still competing against people. They had the 939 cycle, which was definitely rage inducing, but it was different. And then they had a rapid fire event, 363 downstack event. They just had a bunch of different events, and it was pretty fun because it's just, it's new and different. Even though a lot of them are like the same thing, having something different is always refreshing.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what I enjoyed about Day Zero
Yeah.
at Juniors, in my opinion.
Yeah. We had something similar at Juniors 2021 in Houston. They tried to incorporate what they called Freestyle Friday, which is basically on day zero. They had a bunch of different freestyles that you could
Yeah.
participate in, and that was fun. I didn't really compete in them, but it seemed like everybody else had a good time doing them, and like more of that, please. Of course, like relationship with the WSSA is kind of a little bit fractured right now, but I think if they encouraged more of that and maybe made it more head to head, or encouraged more like head to head competitions with that sort of format, I think it would be a lot more interesting than what they have right now.
Yeah. I also just feel like that's the other thing. It's just that at times one person will walk into the room and it's like, okay, well, tournament's over. Just give them the trophy already. We're done here.
And at the same time, I've said this to both Nate and Kian. Nobody is qualified in this community to speak on how fast we can go in the sport because really nobody knows how fast we can go.
People said, and this is something else I added when he was bringing this up. It's like, back in the 2000s, a sub 5-second cubing solve was unfathomable.
Yeah.
It just wasn't going to happen. It's physically impossible. Your fingers can't move that fast. You can't make orientations. Now there are what, like 3-second solves?
Yeah.
Like, it's always we just can't do that. It's not physically possible. It's not physically possible now. But I think actually shorties have taught us.
I was about to say.
Shorties have just shown us that a lot of things that we didn't think were even possible are not only very possible, but are very clearly going to happen at some point in the future and can already happen with smaller cups.
Yeah. And we have Andrew Dale to thank for that.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew.
Yeah.
It's like
a
1.54.
I
don't even have a 1.433 yet, and Andrew's about to just flex. It's just
He's
about to
gonna
flex
beat
on
your-
me.
He has a 1.1.
He's gonna. This. I'm mad. I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Andrew.
I will
No, I'm just
say,
kidding.
when
Love
it
you,
comes to, like, we asked a question earlier about which stackers will get better in person tournaments. Andrew Dale, 100%.
Oh yeah.
If we see him in in-person tournaments, I feel like he's going to do way better. And I can say that because I competed against him in Oceanside, at the Oceanside tournament this year, and I got my shit clapped. Bro, he destroyed me. He destroyed everybody there, but he was on one that day. Like, he was popping 4s in practice. Like, it was nothing.
4s are ridiculous.
Now we have a fifth guest in the podcast.
It's Evan and Noah.
No, Kirby. Noah fell off.
He fell off.
But yeah, I enjoy, let me say, I like both. I know we've talked about this, or you guys have talked about this a lot, but both Pyra and WSSA have its place. Like,
Yeah.
I like to compare it to like a track and field meet.
Sure.
Like, Pyra is like the track events, like the 100 meter, 200 meter and stuff like that, while, you're racing against other people. And then WSSA is like the throwing events, like javelin, shot put, discus, and stuff like that. And because it's very similar format, track events have heats, and then those heats go to semifinals, and then it goes to finals.
Mm-hmm.
And then throwing events, you have your warm-up time, you have 3 attempts, and whoever has like the top 8 out of those 3 attempts go on to finals. And sorry.
You're
I'm
No,
great.
you're good.
No.
I'm great with words.
No,
That's a great analysis.
But both, it's all just one circle. Both have its place. Both, and then both work together.
yeah, that's what I've always said is like, I kind of need the WSA to be around because they cover the 99%. They cover that the majority of the stackers that I just won't be able to cover most anytime soon because we're not at that point yet where we can host, 700 stacker tournaments or anything like that. And my other focus and my other concern, I guess we'll bring this as its own topic as well, is I'm really concerned about the fan structure and like the the egosphere, I guess, of just stacking as a sport, because I feel it's still so incredibly small of a sport in comparison to others. And I feel like if there isn't a reliable way to get actual fans of the sport that aren't stackers or parents,
Or just new stackers.
yeah, exactly, or just new stackers, like if we don't get like legitimate fans into watching the sport, we're in really real big trouble, because every other major sport has exactly that.
Yeah, even with cubing, like this weekend was like the St. Louis cubing and stacking tournament. St. Louis cubing had like 90 competitors,
Yeah.
while the stacking event has like 30. I just think in general, every single stacking organization needs to just expand more and take the time to really reach out. Like in 2019, I was invited to go to a toy convention when SpeedStacks collaborated with a toy company, and it got a lot of people talking, and like at the toy convention got a lot of people talking, and it like exposed the sport more.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think everyone needs to do that more.
There just needs to be more exposure, period, of this sport. And again, I feel like it also needs to be a little bit more of a transition from the game to the sport, because I feel like, I mean, if you're, with all due respect, if you're in a toy store with, are these considered toys to play a game, or are these cups to use in a sports scenery? And I think that's also the separation of, like, in that 99 and 1%. That's going to be really important. Whereas, the people that like to, they'll take it as a hobby, and like maybe they'll go to a tournament or two, see where they can do it, versus the people that actually want to be the best.
Like to say, but I like to compare it to like something like basketball, where like if you're at a young age, you're more introduced to it as like a game more than a sport.
Right.
But then as you grow up, then you're can be exposed. You're exposed to a lot more what basketball can be.
Right.
I'm
sure Tyler Hollis is foaming at the mouth right now.
And I like to see it as that. I want everyone involved with stacking, every organization to what's the word? Like be risen up. That's not the exact word I'm looking for, but
to innovate, I guess.
To grow. That's the word I'm looking for. I want every organization to grow. WSSA, Pyra, just everyone to just grow and expand, so that everyone can benefit from that.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to say, to comment onto that, is the Korean Sports Cycling Association, KSSA, the ones that make the Flash Cups, they have like absolutely blown up in South Korea. Like, I think their last big championship tournament that they had like 400 competitors in Korea, and on top of that, they get funding. Apparently, from what I've been told, they get funding from the Korean government to host tournaments, do demonstrations and stuff, and it is insane how large that organization is. And I think if they can expand a little bit more outside of Korea, that there's some real promise to that organization as well.
No, my phone.
And then Ethan's phone fell over.
What are you guys doing? Okay, I'm gonna put these back on the bed.
Well, I was actually gonna say, I think that's about all of the topics that I had to cover. Do you guys have anything in mind?
Only that these two things are very cute and I love them very much.
I don't have any topics, but I have a couple questions.
Sure. A couple questions.
Do either of them relate to any of them relate to my plushy loving?
No.
Okay. I'm sorry.
But what has been your favorite stacking year in general?
Probably
just overall.
I'd probably have to say 2013. And I say that because I think it was probably one of the most important years for the sport. JW Retails released in 2012, but they really started to, sort of come into their own around 2013. Um, like Worlds 2013, I can't even count the number of stackers who were using them. It was a career-defining year for both Josh Hainsel and William Polly. We saw an absolutely insane amount of world records. It marked the release of clear PS1s. Um, Clear PS2s. Yeah, not clear PS1s. Clear PS2s V1s. Pretty much the first PS2 model that was released, to my knowledge. And I just think overall it was an incredible year for the sport. I think certainly 2018 was probably up there as well, just because of everything that happened that year.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say, excuse me, sorry. I was gonna say 2018 is probably my favorite.
I'm actually gonna agree with you on that one. I think 2018 was my favorite. I'd say 2015 was like a close second though.
My least favorite was probably 2016.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, as far as I'm aware, I don't know that there were any overall world records set that year. Worlds 2016 was kind of underwhelming, to be honest, because not that the event itself was underwhelming,
Yeah.
but
Where did they have Worlds that year?
Germany.
Oh, yeah.
Ian
that was
won.
Gen 4.
What's up?
That was with Gen 4.
That was Gen 4. And I remember that Ian won Worlds, and not that he didn't deserve it, because he definitely did. But also, William Morrell had a chance to win Worlds and did amazing in 53-63 and then just bomb cycle.
It do be like that.
Yeah. There were no overall world records that year. Really not a lot of super memorable tournaments that year to begin with. I didn't go to juniors that year, and I don't hear anyone talking about juniors 2016, so.
Juniors 2016 was the tournament I got in Team USA.
Then
2016
You
That
were-
was
you
actually
might be
the
one of
best tournament there.
Well, that was a good thing that happened then, but
honestly, 2016, I can't help but to like because I obviously got on Team USA, and then that was like the year other than like my first year of stacking where I improved the most at home.
Mm-hmm.
That was honestly kind of insane. How did I do that?
because you're a beast.
From like 563 to 508.
That'll do it. But yeah, I mean, I didn't like 2016 for just a variety of years personally. I think as the year ended and as 2017 began, things got better, but that entire year was just a mess for me.
Honestly, 2017 really was not much better. There were a few more.
2017 was like a recovery year for me.
Yep, it also was the year of the logoless Cup ban announcement, which I know was a big deal in the
Really?
community. Yeah,
That
it was.
a long time.
That Worlds 2017 was the first tournament it was to be implemented, and I know because they tried.
They pushed it off.
Yeah, well, they were going to implement it mid prelims.
Yeah.
It had been a rule for a while, like since 2013, but they never ever enforced it. Because,
And people assumed they never would.
Yeah, because really they shouldn't have.
They shouldn't have. It's a stupid rule, but that's besides the point. And yeah, but they did eventually call that off. Up until the next year.
I guess also by default, 2020 was probably one of the worst years for stacking.
Yeah.
Nobody could help that one.
Pandemic like really hurt.
Pandemic
Yeah.
moment. I also said this to these guys earlier, but it was a very selfish moment for me because I had gotten suspended the year before and I couldn't go to any tournaments and I felt like, on the outside looking in to an extent, and then the next year COVID happened and I was like, first time? Just got a guy in the news.
But yeah, I didn't really experience 2013 stacking to its fullest because that's the year I started, and I started very late. I started in October of that year.
Yeah.
I started 3 days before the first 4 was ever completed. So I didn't really experience that, but 2014, that was kind of fun.
I like 2014.
Worlds in South Korea, that was cool.
Banger.
Um,
I didn't go, but banger.
Banger.
I have the Worlds 2014 mat. That's cool. And then 2015, that was like the first year where I really was like really harsh on myself
Yeah.
for doing bad at tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
Like Ohio Valley 2015, I just needed like a 6 to get third or something, and I completely like bombed it, and I was just like, I was very upset with myself.
Yeah.
And then 16, um, that was mainly just at home, and then 17, 18 was definitely probably like my favorite time, and then 2019, that was when it's like, that was also when it was really bad for me, because I was like, I, I got really nervous talking to people, um, so I just like didn't talk to people much, and then 2020 and 2021 is when I took like a big break, and
Yeah.
somewhat extent 2022.
Yeah.
It seemed like a lot of us did, just during that time, just because there wasn't really anything to look forward to in the community, as far as like tournaments go.
Yeah. So that is that. What were your other questions?
Um, I was gonna mention something about.
By the way,
tournaments.
as he is asking questions, if you guys would like to ask questions in chat, you're more than welcome to. For myself or just for anybody here.
Oh, I remember this question from, uh, their podcast with Tyler. What was the first set of cups you stacked with at a tournament?
Oh shoot!
Put me on the spot here.
Um,
First set of cups I ever stacked with on a tournament, I have to imagine 2011. I don't know. I'm gonna guess.
Did you start in 2009 or 2010?
I started in 2008.
Oh.
But I didn't go to a tournament until 2011. 2011. If I have to guess, this is an educated guess. I'm going to say, green glow in the darks.
Shoot, what set did I stack with at Connecticut 2012?
Did you start in 2012?
Yeah, I started 2012. Shit, I've been stacking for a decade now.
Yeah.
My God.
14 years.
Yeah. I think it was I think 353 and 363 I used JW Emily Fox Pros, I think. And then I would have used JW Reds for cycle finals. It's funny because I was 6th place in during cycle prelims at Connecticut 2012. So I was just expecting to do 333 and 363, and then all the judges came up and they're like, "Hey, you're up for cycle." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And I ended up getting 4th, and I think one other kid got 6th, and he didn't get an award. And I was like, I feel bad now.
Yeah. Let's see.
For me, it was a mixed set of yellow and green snap tops.
Gotcha. What was the moment you realized that you made it in stacking? We already kind of answered this for you. Ethan, what about you? When was the moment you realized you made it?
That assumes that I've already made it. When was the moment I arrived in the community? I'd probably want to say the tournament, like the breakout tournament that I had, was probably. I don't know that I had one. I mean, I did very well at Delmarva. That was probably the first tournament I did exceptionally well in everything.
You did well at Ohio Valley 2016.
I did go to Ohio Valley 2016. I got 3rd at that tournament, and then it was Carson and then Yo. Yeah. I feel bad for Levi because he really wanted to get top 3 at that tournament.
That's another tournament where I was like, that was 2016, so that was like the year I was like really improving.
Right.
That was probably another moment where I was like, oh, maybe I do.
Yeah, I can do this. I'd also want to say, I think probably, I kind of like made it in the community and like for the wrong reasons, because at the time,
didn't we all?
Yeah, I was pretty notorious for making some pretty controversial statements on Facebook and whatnot, but yeah, I never really had that breakout tournament except maybe Delmarva, where I got 2nd overall, had 9.6 overall, but that never really bothered me. It's just, I just like going to tournaments to just see everybody and just have a good time.
Yeah. For me, the moment I realized I made it. What answer do you want? I guess for like my actual performance, somewhere in 2017, I'd say. I wanted to say whatever tournament Peter hosted in 2017.
New England.
Yeah, I got a 1 in SOC there, and that was pretty good. I got 4th overall, and I was pissed.
Didn't you get a 1 at Big Apple?
Yeah, later that year. And then Big Apple, I got like 193 or something. But I think my breakout performance, and arguably still my best overall performance at a tournament. This is up for debate. No. Connecticut 2017, I got second.
2017.
And I was so mad because I had a chance to get first and I bottled it. Because Tyler wasn't in cycle SFC and I was, and I needed to get like 0.07 better and I didn't, and I was upset. But that aside, yeah, whatever.
I think actually, the more I think about it, Nations Capital probably may have been like the closest I've had to a breakout tournament, because I went into Nations Capital like with zero expectations. I was just going there just to like see what happened. Ended up breaking divisional 363 state record. Got a 10 overall, and I was like feeling real good about myself. So that was like one of the few moments where I could say like, hey, maybe I am like pretty good at this, you know.
Yeah. Let's see. 2017, stacking with the community seemed more toxic. Yeah.
2011 did. I mean, the Stacker documentary released in 2013. It released 2 years after the fact, but you know, it featured footage from Worlds 2011. So, yeah, it was a pretty important year. You know, William Polly obviously ended the three-peat that year. You know, the 593. Yeah, breakout year for William Polly. The 593 world record had finally been beaten.
Kind of in the weirdest way.
Right.
Mike McCoy.
The new relay rules, of course. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that happened in 2011. That's a good answer.
2011 was the end of an era, and then I'd say like 2013 was the beginning of the next era of William Monroe.
Notice how we like skipped over 2012 because not much really happened in 2012.
2012, we were
It was
there.
kind of just like copy paste 2011.
I don't think 2012 was a bad
it
year.
introduced didn't it introduce nationals and juniors.
It did, yes. It did
Gen
add
3.
It did add
Gen 3.
2 marquee tournaments. Well, Gen 3 released toward the end of 2011. I think it released in like November, December of 2011. Now that you mention it, though, it did give us the god-awful July 2012 Gen 3 timers.
Mm-hmm.
And I had one for like 5 years, and I just kept it for memes because it was so bad.
I think I have a July 2012.
Yeah. They are like the worst. Like, as much as I complain about Gen 5, I would probably use
at least
Gen
5 can be an actual timer.
over the July 2012 over the July 2012 timers.
2012 was William Monroe's breakout year.
I'd say 2014.
I would say breakout year. I somewhat agree. Like, that's when people started. I'd say people started putting eyes on him in 2011, but that's when he started to perform in tournaments, because I think his first world record was in 2012.
Yeah, it was the 586 that he set during finals at the Georgia tournament, and then he got 159 and 583 in SOC.
Yeah.
So that is a fair point. He did stack the 568, which was
but I think he had like a slower rise than like other breakout people.
Right.
I think like when people saw Steven and yes, the bar was much lower at the time for Steven, but when people started seeing what Steven could do at like 11 years old, that's when things really started to turn heads for him, and like people caught eyes on him pretty quickly, and then it was just 24/7 spotlight, Steven proving on best stacker in the world, yada yada yada, and then it was just like a 3-way battle of like the cycle fastest with him, Luke, and
Tyler Cole.
Yes, thank you.
I think 2012, 2013, around that period, there was kind of an interesting storyline going on with like the cycle. You could technically argue for 4 different stackers, because you know Jesse was kind of in that mix for a while. But I remember it was William Morrell, it was William Polly, and then it was Lee Norton, who were, you know, consistently in that like cycle fast.
It's weird to think about Lee Norton then, because like I just like I didn't forget about him, but it's like thinking of him as the best. He's like, oh yeah, Lee Norton was like the best at one point.
It's some people forget Lee Norton stacked the first 5.0. Yeah, stacked 5098 with Tori Kopos.
What a baller.
Yeah, absolute baller. And then William got 503. There was a small controversy about Gen 2 timers and Gen 3 timers. Thanks, Boris, for that. And then William got 503 like a week after the video came out. So
how quickly after this question, I have like a couple more questions.
Yeah,
one more. thing that's like a PYRAcast staple.
Sure. PYRAcast staple. Hit me with it.
But after the questions, it's guess the stacker.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
As if we could end without it.
Oh, what was the question?
No, he's forgotten it.
What we were just talking about?
Oh
Oh yeah. How fast did the 9 after Gen 2 timers or 100th place timers? How fast did that
Catch on.
Yeah.
It was fairly uncontroversial at the time. I think most people agreed with Lawrence that it was problematic that people were kind of cheating, not like
intentionally.
Yeah, not intentionally. It's just like they were trying to not have to worry about Gen 3 and all its problems. I think there was some controversy over whether to replace the time with a 9 or whether to replace the last digit, with a 9 or replace the thousandth digit with a 5 so that it was in between. Lawrence felt like it still posed an advantage for Gen 5, which I can understand.
You mean Gen 3?
Yeah, Gen 3, Gen 5. Yeah.
A little further ahead there, buddy.
Yeah. With the Gen 3 timer. As far as I know, though, it was kind of a short controversy anyway because, William stacked a 503 the week after the video came out. Yeah. He's like, yeah.
Because it was 509.8 and then somebody else got 509 but with a Gen 2.
Yeah, William Earl got 509 with a
and
Gen 2.
then the week after, William was like, okay, I'm about to do what's called a pro gamer move.
Yeah, and then got 503. Yeah.
And then a 4.
Yeah, and then a 4.
Yeah, I wasn't stacking at that time, so I don't know how fast it caught on. But that's standard now.
Oh, sure.
If it's a Gen 2 timer, it's a 9.
Except for, Mike still uses Gen 2, but... yeah, and that's another reason I considered 2013 to be the best year for stacking. The year of the first 4, first unofficial 4 anyway.
One more question I can think of, Evan, guess the stacker.
Okay.
What's some underrated tournaments that you would like to see come back, or just underrated tournaments in general?
Philly.
Yeah, Philly was always a pretty popular event. I would love to see it come back. I would also, I would like to see it. I'd like to see Mid Atlantics come back. Because 2019 was the last year for Mid Atlantics, and then I guess
assuming I could go to any of these tournaments, obviously, those would probably be on the top of my list, Mid Atlantics and Philly. I just like to see more tournaments close to me, as selfish as that sounds.
Yeah.
But I will say, I can't remember what tournament it was. It was like, I mean, say what you want. I actually really liked the Big Apple tournament too.
Yeah,
I'd like to see
It
that.
was so good.
Yeah, it was a really fun tournament.
I'd like to see that come back too. Assuming I could go. But yeah, I feel like, I mean, the Big Apple Apple could definitely happen again. What were the other two? Mid Atlantics?
Yep.
I can see that come back, but I think Philly's kind of it's probably not happening. I think that's probably done.
Yeah, I think we should bring back. What should we bring back? We should bring back
Ohio
Valley, yes.
We should bring back Gen 4 timer.
We should bring back the plushies, yay!
Evan and Noah.
Evan. Missed you, buddy.
But yeah, Big Apple, that was definitely one of my favorite tournaments. And then, oh hey, John.
That's our boy John.
Oh, what's up, John?
But yeah, Mid Atlantics Philly. I liked Ohio Valley because it was very
easygoing.
Yeah, it was easygoing, no stress. It was just a very fun tournament.
Yeah.
Big Apple. Underrated for me, Des Moines as a Junior Olympic city. Mm-hmm. That's my favorite Junior Olympic city.
Mm-hmm.
Des Moines.
Iowa. That was so underrated.
I was an underrated state. As much as we joke, as much as people joke on Iowa, it's such fun. I loved Des Moines.
Yep. What was I gonna say? There was another tournament that I really, really enjoyed. I'm just trying to think of it. Shoot.
What year?
It was probably 2017 or so, and then Went to Ohio by the Mid-Atlantics. I think I went to Philly. Shoot, I'm drawing a blank. Here, let me look up the tournaments.
One
I've been
tournament
to.
I wish I could go to that I wish was closer. I wish I could go to at least one Connecticut in my life. Because that's just like, that's such a classic tournament.
Oh, yeah.
One of the longest running tournaments.
I think
that's
it is the
annually.
longest running tournament now.
What, like the...
Other
When
than
did they
like
start? Like 2016 maybe? Or 26... Whoa.
2006.
2006?
It's going for 14 years now, so 2006, 2008,
2007?
something like that. I don't know.
Something like that. But at some point I would like to go to one.
Yeah. Trying to think of what else. Well, I think that's it.
Yep.
I think now it's time for
Yeah, I can't remember.
Guess the
The
stacker.
stacker.
I don't know what that was, but all right. So, if you guys don't know how Guess the Stacker works, one of us will think of a stacker. The other two have to ask specific questions about said stacker without obviously. Yeah, it has to be yes or no questions as well. And then we are allowed to give hints as to who our stacker is, but it's usually pretty flexible in the rules. It's just what we consider a win is. But Nate, would you like to go first?
I'll probably do 2 rounds maybe.
Okay.
I'll probably do one easier and then like a harder round.
Right.
So this stacker, he's a pretty good friend of all of us. Semi-active, semi-retired. And his overall is unofficial overall is a 7.784.
Wally Polly.
Wally Polly.
Not Wally Polly.
Polly Pocket.
Semi-active, semi-retired. What was it?
7.784.
Tyler Hollis?
Mm-mm.
Paintel? Chat, comment now who you think it is.
Shoot.
If this is the easy one, we're in trouble. Another hint.
I'm trying to think of a hint. He was at a... I have one hint, but it's very easy. It will pretty be easy.
This is the
Good
easy one,
guess.
so.
He lives in New York.
Michael Vanner?
Yes.
Oh, semi-active. Oh, Michael. All right.
I was about to read off his Gen 5 records, but I'm like, I don't think that would help much.
Yep, okay. So let me think of a stacker here.
And of course, I can't use my phone because that's what we're streaming with.
Okay. Gotta look up his overall.
You can use my phone.
Okay.
Look.
Stacking leaderboard.
While they're searching up, let me tell you about this, the Mario Party game we played last night, and how it was very unfair to me.
Hi, I'm Nate, and my life is kind of crazy.
You might be wondering how I ended up in this situation. Well, let's go all the way back to the beginning.
Okay. So it might be a little bit tougher. Oh.
Might be.
Alrighty. Alrighty, I got it. Okay. So, this stacker he lives on the East Coast. He is basically retired now. He made sort of an official announcement about it recently. He's well known for his proficiency in the 333, and his overall is 9.864.
I think I know who you were talking about.
You do. It's a pretty easy one.
Do you have any idea?
No.
Should I just guess?
Yes.
Joshua McKenzie.
It's Joshua McKenzie.
McKenzie.
J-Mac.
I wasn't even thinking about him. All right. It's
As soon
my
as you
turn.
said he's made an announcement recently, I was like,
Yeah, that should have helped because I saw his announcement. I just completely forgot.
yeah. And then you said 333, and I was like, oh yeah.
It's
All
Joshua McKenzie.
Okay.
Oh, I'm
All
sorry,
right,
King.
you're good.
No, I mean,
I'll never forget you.
Thank you. I'll never forget you.
I'll never forget you either. All right. I have my stacker ready. You guys ready?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Try not to look at the.
This stacker is human. That's the only hint you get. Okay. This stacker is. I can't say their state because I'm not sure if it's correct. They're an East Coast stacker. They competed in 2 Pyra tournaments, and currently, could you open this book for me without looking? Except for the fact that it requires you to look. Okay, you shouldn't have gotten anything from that anyways. They currently have an unofficial overall of 8.067.
8.067.
You said East Coast.
East Coast competed in 2 Pyra tournaments. East Coast, 8.067.
Karif.
No.
8.067. Shoot.
If you guys get this before my next hit, I will be very impressed.
Naoki?
Damn, you got it.
Oh.
Woo!
I was gonna say, is he from New York?
He's from New York, yeah.
Okay, I that would have, but I feel like I would have shaped it down a little too much. All right, one more round, bonus round. I'm pretty sure I don't have a single point, so.
All right, and we will give it to Mr. Nate.
I have to pull this back up again.
Well, one more round for each of us, but yes.
Yeah.
Hey guys, make sure to play along in chat by using hashtag play along in chat.
See if there's any new comments.
I'll pull what Ethan did last time, and have a tournament.
Ooh, these are always fun.
Oh God. I'm screwed.
So this stacker has done pretty well at a lot of marquee tournaments,
Okay.
and at juniors 2018, I want to say. Let me
Okay.
just double check the year. Yes, 2018.
Okay.
He got a 9.734.
0.734.
He ended up placing 6th.
Nathan Wood.
No,
Damn.
Will Allen?
that would have been good, but that's
Because
a
I know he
guess.
got a 1, and that was
Yeah.
like the highlight, and that's basically what I remember.
363 SSC was kind of not to toot my own horn,
Not too
but 363 SSC was very fun.
It wasn't you, was it?
No,
Okay.
but it was me, Nathan Wood, and how do you say his name?
Easy.
Isai.
Isai Palacios. Nick Stan?
No.
Hollins?
He played Tyler won Juniors 2018.
Oh, yeah. He said pretty well.
Shoot, and it was 9.734. You said.
Oh my God. Was it me?
No.
Okay. I was about to say, wait, no.
9.734.
Oh, no, that's way too fast for me. Okay.
Spencer Lath?
Yes.
Yes.
God damn, I'm getting this
I was
straight.
gonna. The hints was he's a. I guess you could say Midwest stacker, but and then my second hint was gonna be he's been on my relay team a lot.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a good one though. Okay. I'll come up with one.
Okay.
You guys wait now. Ooh, this one.
Excuse me.
You're good.
Okay. All right. Just need to move that out of frame. Thank you.
I'm
Promise
gonna
I
look at the leaderboard or tournament results.
Okay. I will look. I look now.
While these people pull up their stacker, I'll try and think of a funny story that happened at Hershey yesterday.
You mean other than the hat?
Other than the hat. Did we talk about that?
No.
Oh, so on the very first ride, we rode that yesterday. It was a laugh track. And I remember telling Kian, but I don't think he heard me, about taking off his hat before he went on the ride. And during the ride, we were joking around about the scenery and what they can do to update it. And then randomly, just in the middle, Kian's just talking to me like, oh yeah, the scenery looks really great. And the ride is really... And there goes my hat. Without just missing a beat. And the same tone of voice.
Okay.
And there it goes.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, I have my answer. So, this stacker is a niche top 10 unofficial stacker for many, many years. At Worlds 2014, he finished 4th overall, and his combined time was 9.898.
Finished 4th?
Yes.
Is he a USA stacker or...
No.
No?
Yep. Think Oceania.
Jaden?
Nope.
Oh shit, that made it even more confusing.
What was his overall?
It was 9.898.
8.98.
9.898.
In Oceania?
Yep. Do you guys need a hint?
Yeah.
Okay. He was particularly noted for being sort of an aficionado in the 333.
I don't remember his last name, but Ben...
Yes.
What's his last name?
Think of a plane.
Flyer?
Close.
Ben Folds?
Nope.
I have no idea then. I truthfully
What's his
don't
last
even-
name? I know who you're
Flighty.
talking...
It's been
Flighty.
Flighty.
I've heard the name, I legit do not know who this person is.
I was trying to think, but as soon... But it like popped in my brain and then you said 333. I was like, oh, it's Ben... It's Ben F something.
Yep, Ben Flighty. He's not... I don't know how many people in here remember Ben Flighty, but like he was ridiculous at 333.
I used his 333 with him a lot when I was younger.
He was really good at 333.
Alright, I got my stacker. I think I got my stacker at least. This is kind of a medium difficulty one, but it also might become very easy. This stacker was revered in the 2015 to, I'd say, about the 2018 realm. But as of the last couple of years, has just not been as terrifying of a stacker anymore, mainly because he does not practice as much. He is a North American stacker, and his current overall is, let me pull it up, 8.079.
8.079. That is tough.
And he has competed in a Pyra tournament before.
Tristan.
On the beat, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I think
was
that's
impressive.
a live.
And it's pretty fitting because the light just died.
Yeah, the light just died. And that's our cue.
But like you said North American, and I was like,
Yeah, I think that I didn't know how to say it.
Without giving it away.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think that will be episode 3 of the PYRAcast.
Yes, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you, Nate, for joining us. I'd love to keep this going on a little bit longer, but he really has to get going soon. So we also have to get going eventually as well. So I appreciate you all so much for watching. And stay tuned for more updates, everybody. Have a good morning, evening, afternoon, good day, and good night.
luck
And a
to-
good super mushroom.